Buongiorno a tutti, buongiorno dal Paris Film Festival. Questo è il penultimo giorno di questa 23esima edizione di Udine Farist Film. Quindi non potevamo che immaginare di collegarci ancora una volta con l'Asia, visto che appunto la grande mancanza di questi giorni è rappresentata dal fatto che le star asiatiche non sono qui in presenza, ma sono collegate con noi tramite appunto il potere della tecnologia. Ci colleghiamo subito con Tim Youngs, che ovviamente è a Hong Kong. Hello Tim.
Hi
E
Sabrina.
con Tim Youngs e Kevin Ma in questi giorni abbiamo discusso, abbiamo parlato della selezione appunto dei film di Hong Kong legata ai nuovi talenti, ma non abbiamo ancora affrontato complessivamente quella che è la proposta hongkongese di quest'anno, perché ci sono dei titoli che stavamo aspettando da molto tempo, alcuni titoli che sapevamo sarebbero stati molto d'appeal per il nostro pubblico, ma di questo andiamo appunto a commentare con Tim direttamente, dicevo, collegato da Hong Kong. Una cosa interessante da dire subito è che alcuni dei nostri film sono in questo momento proiettati nelle sale della città e cito subito Drifting, cito Time e anche Hand Roll Cigarettes, mentre altri film della nostra selezione non sono ancora usciti nella ex colonia britannica. Tim, we were saying that some of our films, the ones that we selected for this year festival, are just released in Hong Kong. So they are in the theaters right now. Some others, the ones we are going to talk about today, they are still waiting to be released. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. So we've got in cinemas right now Hand Rolled Cigarette and Drifting. Time is on advanced shows, but it comes out later this month. In terms of the films outside New Talents, Limbo, Madalena, and Coffin Homes are not yet released yet. Although Coffin Homes does have a release date, that's coming out in August. Right now, we're seeing a little burst of films coming out with the new talents, which is actually really good to see. But some of these films, of course, have been delayed. They had local premieres last year, in fact, at festivals, but it's only now that people can see them in a cinema properly.
Right. Going back to our selection, the general selection focus on Hong Kong cinema, there is one title we were waiting for a long, long time. It's actually directed by one of the most, most famous in some way director, which we have been following for many years. Of course, I'm talking about Soi Chang and the Limbo. Finally, we could see the Limbo on our big screen in a physical screening. Would you like to say something about that?
Definitely, and you're right to say finally, because Limbo is a film that was actually shot in 2017, which is pretty remarkable because when you look at the film now, it's a really, really dark picture and a very, really horrible picture of a city. And in some ways, it actually somehow fits the rather dark mood in Hong Kong today. The movie, in a way, follows on quite well thematically from the earlier films by Soi Chang, which we showed at Far East Film. For example, Love Battlefield and Dog Bite Dog. The film has a very grim feel to it, and a really intense, oppressive atmosphere. The interesting thing about this film, that some people may miss when they watch it, is that it's not actually set in Hong Kong. Or rather, they don't say it is set in Hong Kong. The police work for a kind of fictitious police department in a place called Eastern District. And the film itself is actually based on a mainland Chinese novel. But when you're watching it, you do get this really jarring feeling, especially for Hong Kong viewers, because you can recognize it as being Hong Kong, but it's a city that has, under Soi Cheng's direction, has completely changed, to become something that's almost unrecognizable to viewers, which is really, really shocking to see. As far as, just talking about genre. The film starts out as a murder mystery, but then it just immediately transforms into one of the most brutal thrillers that I can think of. So I've only been able to see this on the small screen. I have not had the chance to see it in the cinema, but this is a film I really, really am looking forward to seeing when it comes out to theaters.
Yeah, definitely. But do you know when it's planning to be released? Do you have any news, any update about that? Because we couldn't
No,
understand them. Mm,
no, I
no,
don't.
not yet.
Actually, it's a little bit hard to tell release dates in Hong Kong now. As
Mm,
you know, for years, Hong Kong filmmakers have had a lot of difficulty getting local audiences really interested in their films. Some films naturally have a large audience because of maybe the great appeal of their lead actors, but other films that don't have, say, Andy Lau as the lead actor, or even smaller films, have to maybe play a long game to get attention. So you see that they have months of a film festival rollout where the film goes to this festival, this festival, this festival. And
mhm.
hopefully the buzz can build over time, and then the film will arrive in cinemas. So we've had situations where films, um, you know, will be seen at festivals for say six months or more before they actually reach Hong Kong cinemas. Sometimes Hong Kongers can look quite, can be a little bit jealous because other people get to see their films first.
Like Udine audience in this case. But keep
Absolutely.
going. Yeah, going on talking about Limbo. I think would really worth also mention the cast of the film.
Absolutely. The lead actor in the film is Gordon Lam, who is a pretty prominent actor in Hong Kong. Of course, people know him from working with people like Johnny To. In this film, he went through a pretty tough role, working in, as you can see, really difficult locations and with a really, really intense performance. And also joining him at the top of the cast is a mainland actress, Saya Liu, who really has an astonishing performance in this movie. Her character is someone who is kind of looking for redemption, and as she goes to authorities to kind of help for actually quite personal reasons, she finds herself really used and abused, and it's really painful to watch her character. And her performance in that role is really astonishing. But that Mason Lee is another actor in the film as a young cop. That's Ang Lee's son. Yeah, the film is really, really worth watching for their performances. You really do get a feel for actors being pushed to do really extraordinary performances.
Hmm. And what about the choice, Soy Chan's choice to use a black and white photography? What do you think? Which is your opinion about that?
Uh, I mean, stylistically, of course, it's really dramatic because, I mean, how many Hong Kong films are filmed that way now? But on the other hand, sometimes I wonder, while I was watching it, whether the film would actually be rougher for Hong Kong people to watch in color, because, the way the city is transformed might be even more dramatic when people see the colors that they recognize on the buildings and on the streets, and also, of course,
Right.
the blood.
Hmm.
So I'm not sure. I actually, I really don't know. But I mean, obviously, as a black and white film, it just stands out because it is such a striking choice in Hong Kong cinema today.
On a completely different tone, we have for the first time in our selection a movie from Macau. Although, of course, it's a kind of co-production between Hong Kong and Macau because there are many Hong Kong people involved. But the director, in this case, a female director, Emily Chan, she's really interesting, and she put together a very very nice love story in a big city like Macau, which is pretty unknown for our for Westerners. I mean, although the casinos there are there are many
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, she has made a film that, I mean, it's more than just a love story. It's a film about migrant workers. It's a film that, has little touches of gangster cinema dropped into it as well. It's actually a really diverse little picture. Um, I mean, Hong Kong people who watch Hong Kong films have seen Macau in the cinema again and again. There are many Hong Kong films that have been shot there. Johnny To went back there again and again with films like Exiled and Vengeance and The Longest Night, of course. You've got films like Isabella, and going back further, there's Pedicab Driver and Death Traps. There are so many, but these are usually just Hong Kong people going in and shooting a film. But I feel that this film, because it is made by a Macau resident, it's really obviously going far deeper into the situation in Macau and looking at the lives of people living there, and just in this case kind of struggling to get by in a city that's left them rather isolated. Yeah, I'm very happy that we're showing this film, because it's good to get a different voice out there. In this case, a Macau voice. We should say, when you mentioned that it's a co-production, um, Macau doesn't really have much of a film industry, obviously.
Yeah.
It when they make larger films, invariably they're co-productions with Hong Kong. I mean, that's where so much of the filmmaking talent is located. And so in this film, while you've got a Macanese director, and you have the music is done by a local composer, there are also there are Hong Kong people that are brought in to help out in things like art direction, and of course in the producer credits as well.
And of course, there is the outstanding performance by Christy Chow, which is really,
Oh,
really something to
yeah.
underline. Mm.
Oh, absolutely. It's a fantastic performance. She's done some really good dramatic work. She is not seen, I think, by many people in Hong Kong as a strong actress. Her image has been based more about her image as she in a way that relates back to how she broke into the entertainment scene, which was through, say, photo books. But really, she is doing a lot of good work in more serious pictures. 29+1 is another film in recent years that shows her range as an actress, and this film does that as well. It's really a good showcase of her, and also Louis Cheung, who acts alongside her.
Oh, now we can talk about a completely different kind of production, the one related to our friend Herman Yao. We started this festival with two films, two opening films. One is the movie by Zhang Yimou, Cliff Workers, and the other one was Shockwave 2, which Herman Yao directed, and Erika Lee has written, starring Annie Lau. The movie is incredibly successful in Hong Kong, and I think it's telling a lot about Hong Kong nowadays. What do you think? Would you like to add?
Yeah, the film is the most successful film this year, and of course the big attractions of the film are Andy Lau, a megastar in the leading role, and also just extraordinary special effects work to show massive scenes of just massive destruction in Hong Kong. In this case, the film is based around a terrorist threat. Although the film is Shockwave 2, the film is only a name-only sequel to the original Shockwave. In this case, every character is new. All the situations are new. There's even one actor who dies in both films. The film has a lot of stuff in there that, although obviously it's exciting in its own right as a terrorist film, there's also a lot of stuff thrown in there as well, as is typical with the films of Herman Yao and Erika Lee. There is, for example, there are some tough questions about ethics in the film, and there are, for example, there's there is an element of the police trying to change people's memories, which is, a really pretty jarring topic to deal with in a large mainstream production. This is often the case with their films. You get a really good piece of genre cinema or a really good piece of commercial cinema, but there's always something there for food for thought, whether it's about moral issues or whether it's about Hong Kong society.
And the movie was supposed to be released in December in Hong Kong, but then got its mainland China release at the same time in December. But then because of COVID, because of the pandemic, the official release was last February, if I remember well.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
And since then, it was really successful.
Oh yes. I mean, it's a really sensational picture in a cinema. The opening scenes, just the first, I think, couple of minutes when there's footage of a nuclear blast in Hong Kong. It's just astonishing to see that stuff in the cinema. It's really, I'll have to say, just as a fan of Hong Kong cinema, when you see this kind of really confident Hong Kong cinema, completely staged within Hong Kong, with this level of kind of sensationalism and polish, technical polish, it just feels good to see that happen.
The same here. We are all fans of that kind of Hong Kong cinema. And we can see Herman Yao now when we presented him with the award after Ip Man, The Final Fight. And
that's a fantastic film.
A fantastic film. We had a fantastic audience, and I think everybody here really love him. Going on with other titles in our selection, in 2013 we screened The Way We Dance, and now this year we just screened The Way We Keep Dancing by Adam Wong, which is a kind of sequel.
It's a really unusual sequel in that it is, in the Cantonese title, it's actually The Way We Dance 3, because it is there is actually a sequel to The Way We Dance within the film, within this new film. So it's a little bit of a game going on there. This is really not at all like the original film, The Way We Dance. The original film, The Way We Dance, was this fantastic little pop picture with really delightful, dance scenes and little pop culture scenes, and a very basic plot of a type with kind of rival schools of dancers. And it's not unlike, say, a kung fu film, even going back to the 70s with a similar plot device. This time around, it's something completely different. And I think some people could actually find that, it maybe is a little bit less focused. Maybe the film rambles a bit too much, because this time, instead of going for a very direct kind of plot about its characters, it really works on another level. The movie gives you a portrait of a Hong Kong district, in this case, Kwun Tong. It gives you a portrait of a local creative community. In this case, it's kind of people related to hip hop and dance. It goes into all sorts of other related topics and how they can place pressures on people within communities, such as urban renewal. It's really, there's a lot to unpack actually when you watch the film, because there's so much in it. And I do think that it's actually quite a smart move, of course, on the part of the director and the other filmmakers, because now, of course, the young people of Hong Kong are very, very interested in issues like community and culture, and this film really, reflects that as well. So it's actually quite an important film. It came out earlier this year, and did okay in the cinemas.
And we're very happy to hear that. So, to conclude the live section of today, we can talk about the most awaited film here, this time in Udine. I'm talking about the new movie by Free Chan, which was wrapped up only a few days ago. So it's going to be really something unique only for the people who are coming to our cinema physically. It's not possible to see it online or anywhere. The movie is going to be released in August, so this is really a preview, festival preview. Of course, me, you, and the other people involved in our selection have already seen it, but the movie is still going on in some way because it's something that Fruit is still working on, right?
Yes. I mean, it's really just good fortune that we're able to screen it at this point. The film is entirely fresh because yes, the production is still, but I mean, I understand it was still going on, just a couple of weeks ago. The film is really incredible. I'll have to just say it that way. The movie is a collection of basically three stories, and they're all interconnected, and they all relate to Hong Kong's insanely expensive property market and the pressures that it can put on people within the Hong Kong community. It looks at different types of housing in Hong Kong, and including in the most kind of extraordinary side, what are called sometimes referred to as coffin cubicles or coffin homes, or in more polite terms, subdivided units, where people or even entire families live in these tiny spaces at really high rent. But Fruit Chan doesn't, film it and wring his hands and say this is bad. Instead, he somehow packages it into a really fierce satire with really great comedy and horror as well. And the film is just really incredibly exciting to watch. But at the same time, all this horror and comedy is based on something that is really, really tough. This is a society where about 1 million people are living below the poverty line, and many of them are facing, housing issues that are depicted within this film. But at the same time, he has taken a really interesting approach to covering this in a new way for Hong Kong film. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how it's received in cinemas. I think that Hong Kong has a lot of obviously there are a lot of social issues in Hong Kong, and Fruit Chan has taken a really interesting approach in a way that's also incredibly watchable. So I hope the film does really well when it comes out in August.
And we hope so too, of course. But there is a kind of is there any buzz related to the film in Hong Kong right now?
There's at this point there's only advertising. You can walk on the street and you can see the posters, and you can see trailers playing at cinemas. So there's that, but no, I mean, it's still, by Hong Kong standards, the release is still like a month away. That's quite a long time.
Right. Okay. So we can say that there are a lot of things happening in Hong Kong right now from a cinema point of view. There are a lot of movies that are still planning to be released in the theaters. So as a conclusion, the final comment about this year's selection team, what would you like to say? Was good.
Okay.
Right?
Yes. Can I say it's good? I think it's excellent. I'm very happy that we're doing the new talent focus this year, of course. I think that that's really essential, and I'm very happy that we're reflecting that. This new talent push has been going on for several years, and I think we've really made a big fuss over it this time, and I think that's entirely justified. But also, if you just look at our selection of Hong Kong films overall, including the works by established filmmakers like Fruit Chan, Soy Cheng, Herman Yao, you can see that there's this incredible diversity of films coming out. You can also see that many Hong Kong filmmakers are doing their best to cover, topics that can really touch Hong Kong people. You can see a lot of social issues, for example, are being reflected in films either directly or indirectly. And so, there's still a good reason to be, paying attention to Hong Kong film. I'm very happy with what we've got because of that diversity and because of the way Hong Kong is represented in those films.
Yes, thank you very much for saying that, because of course we agree with you, and we still we would love to go ahead showing Hong Kong films also in the future, of course. We're still waiting for some other new movies by big directors like Johnny To or Chiark. We will see. We will see very soon.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Tim, I wanted to thank you, and we can say goodbye to you watching the trailer of Coffee Gnomes.
Oh wow!
So
Okay, great.
yes, we can leave you with this super daring and exciting images taken from Fruit Chan's film. Okay, so we will speak to you soon. Thank you so much. Bye bye,
Okay, bye.
team.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Sabrina.
Home sweet home，鬼同你住，空間神人，風光無盡，陰風送爽，省卻空調費用，親密無間，鄰里關係和睦，放開懷抱，盡享天倫之樂，萬籟俱寂，享受大自然協奏曲。每日與鬼為伴，好玩刺激。世界級大師陳果導演精心猛鬼佈局，令人心馳神往，拍案叫絕。Coffin Homes， 鬼同你住，空前筍盤，暑假公開發售。
張局，空宅價格可升可跌，當中涉及風險，買唔買唔驚鬼先好買。